Should you get an MBA? I've had this question approached to me by a bunch of different people. It's a really important question. Now, before I begin, a couple of things I want to tell you. Number one, thank you so much for your responses and comments on the last video about help and feedback for directions on where to take this channel. I really do appreciate it. I really do acknowledge and respect the valuable, constructive feedback you guys gave me. And I just want to thank you so much. Number two, if you have noticed, this is like a Jimmy rig duct tape setup over here. I'm at a new location. I have two locations. One is for my podcast. That's an actual professional studio with a professional video crew. This is in my home. We got a different room now in the house. So I'm just going to Jimmy rig this in the next couple of weeks. It's going to be turned into a full-fledged studio. Also, if you haven't already, a couple of things. Number one, subscribe. The best way to get notifications on new videos and everything that I'm doing is by subscribing. YouTube lately has been playing around with different algorithms, whatever, that's YouTube. So if you want to get my latest videos, just click the subscribe button and there's a little small bell you can click there. And number two, like always, if you enjoy these videos, leave a comment, man. I love to talk with you guys. I think communication, especially online, needs to be better. I think most people scream and rant and they don't really produce a good form of constructive feedback and in a medium so we can communicate and actually build value. And so without further ado, I want to get into this video about an MBA. Now, a little bit of context for myself. Number one, I have never graduated high school. I've never went to university or college. So how I'm approaching this question is I'm approaching it with different spectacles. I'm approaching this with different eyes, meaning I want to approach this from a person who cares about academia, B, a person who cares about starting their own business, and C, a person who cares about maybe climbing the corporate North American or global ladder, okay? And I want to break this down into two verticals. I want to break this down into pros versus cons. Obviously, I want to start with the pros of the MBA. Now, a couple of things when it comes to the MBA. Ideally, for the most part, when people are going towards their MBA, they're going towards the fact that they want to get a diploma or a degree, whatever you want to call it. I call it a piece of paper. And in promise, this piece of paper will deliver you X, Y, and Z success in the future. This is the story that most people are sold. Go to post-secondary university. Obviously, there's caveats for this. Certain things like lawyer, doctor, engineer, those are highly regulated, and you need that piece of paper to even enter that industry. In the case of MBA within business, it's not highly regulated. You don't need a piece of paper to enter, with a little cliff note on there, because there are certain circumstances that you do, okay, depending on the path that you want to take. So you look at the pros. Most people want to go for the MBA because A, the clout, B, they believe that the MBA piece of paper will guarantee, in quotations, guarantee them success, and success in this case is financial success in the future. Now, both you and I know, if we're looking at modern day education, and if we're looking at what's happening with the economy, and if we're looking at what's happening with the global landscape, and if we look at what's even happening with new companies, Microsoft has announced this, Google has announced this, more and more companies are coming out and saying they really don't care about your piece of paper. Your piece of paper doesn't determine how good you are at doing a certain job or the performance that you have. I know a bunch of people that went to post-secondary and they completely cheated on their stuff, and they're good weasels, but they're not good performers, right? And so when I view this, I view it as people who generally want to go to the MBA, they look at they think they're going to have a guaranteed future. They're following a path already produced for them, and they're following maybe their parents or society or whoever. So they're following already a predetermined plan for them. Now, there are caveats in any situation in life. Like, there is no black and white, okay? And so let's talk about the cons now, because the cons, they do correlate to the pros. The cons is, number one, and this is a big one. On average, it costs about $100K, give or take, to get an MBA. Now, I'm never in the camp to promote going into debt to get post-secondary education. Never. Because usually the ROI does not pan out. The return on investment for your education will never pay back. And so this is average, probably maybe goes to $200-300K and maybe lower. I know there are some circumstances that your company will pay for your MBA. However, you have to keep on working for the company. It comes with stipulations. And so going into debt to get a piece of paper because A, you think it's going to get you a job, let's use some rationale. Is that rational thinking? Should I go into debt for $100,000? No, I don't think so. That's rational thinking. I think there's 100 better things you can do with $100,000, like investing in your own personal education, not corporate education, not post-secondary education, but personal education, getting mentors, going to workshops, taking courses, etc. Number two, when it comes to a con, if you are going into an MBA and you believe that you're going into an MBA just to be an entrepreneur or a business owner, whatever, why not just start a business right now? Why don't you save, how long, whatever it is, 4 or 5 years? Why don't you save yourself 4 years of debt, 4 years of headaches, and 4 years of stress and start your business today? Listen, the business landscape of today is moving so fucking fast. It's even hard for me to keep up with innovation, with new regulation, with how the global marketplace is changing on a month-to-month basis. By the time you come out of university, everything is obsolete. But remember, this is if you have the intention of starting a business. If you don't have an intention of starting a business, that's a whole different story. And so there's a lot of things to take into consideration. It's not that black and white. Obviously, other people on the pro camp, there are some pros. You can say, hey, good networking, sure. My parents going to pay for that, sure. So if you're one of the lucky few that have parents that you're blessed with, that's your genetic lottery, you're blessed with that they can afford to pay for your MBA. And obviously people that can afford to pay for the MBA, you're in a certain social economic class. For the most part, it's networking. If you ask yourself, why do affluent families send their kids to Yale, Brown, Harvard, whatever, it's to network. It's not to learn. It's not about a piece of paper because other families send their kids. It's just a great ground for people to network with other affluent elites. Now, if you are in this camp, all the power to you. Take up your parents' fact that they can afford for you to go to university. You're not in debt. And you do have a safety nest. If all things fail, you have your parents. And I hate when people hate on people like that. It's like, dude, that's their lottery. That's their genetic lottery that they're born into. And maybe their parents worked really fucking hard to get there. Or maybe their parents come from another, down the line of a wealthy, affluent family. Who gives a fuck? But if you're in this camp, sure, go that way. But if you're viewing the MBA as a means to an end to start a business or get into entrepreneurship, it's the worst fucking decision. Seth Godin has something like, I don't know if it's called a micro MBA, but he has his own MBA program, like a weekend MBA. Check it out. Like Google Seth Godin MBA program. It's pretty fascinating stuff. But the bottom line of the video is like, if you want to start a business today. There's no better way to learn more about yourself, which is the most important thing. It's not learning a craft. It's not learning a skill. It's understanding how you're wired. It's understanding how fast you learn. It's understanding what makes you tick. I've said this before. I don't personally believe in free will. I believe we are pre-programmed to behave in a certain spectrum. Well, the faster you can figure out how you behave in this spectrum, the faster you can understand your superpowers so you can benefit yourself in your life. You can put yourself in proper situations, environments, so you can thrive, not just be the status quo, but thrive. And so I'll leave it at that, guys. Like, I think it really does depend on the context of your situation. If you don't need to go to debt and you want to network with people, fuck, all the power to you. However, if you're viewing an MBA, and this applies to all post-secondary education, besides regulated sections like doctor, lawyer, etc., if you are going towards an MBA to just start a business, bypass that. Save yourself the $100,000, save yourself 4 years, save yourself headache, and join a startup today or start a startup today, because exponentially you will gain way more wisdom and knowledge of you. And that's that. Keep it very simple. If you guys enjoyed this video, leave a comment below this video. And like I said at the beginning of the video, make sure to subscribe. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.